Welcome, everybody, to our monthly Chocolatey Product Spotlight live stream for May 2024. There we go. Just had to mute that over there. Yeah, something. Give me 1 second. Apologies. Audio all over the place. Monthly live stream for 2024. I said that. It's only 237 days until Christmas, if anybody's interested. So, get those vouchers bought and get those presents bought for the kids just before the Christmas rush comes up in 230 odd days. As you all love to the Back to Basics series, we're going back to basics yet again. And this time we're going to look at what's Chocolatey GUI, Self-Service, and the Chocolatey Agent Background Service. As a reminder, we run 2 live streams every month on the first and third Thursday. This live stream here is where we spotlight Chocolatey products, recent releases, upcoming releases, and important features. Our other live stream that is on the third Thursday of each month, and that's called Unpacking Software, and that includes news, chat, and opinion on the world of software and software management. You can also watch. You can always watch us live, or you can catch up later with the podcast. Details are all in the description down below. You can be notified of all of our Chocolatey content by joining us on our Community Hub and Discord, subscribing to us on YouTube, and clicking that notification bell. It's down there somewhere. If you click that, you get a notification when we're next streaming. You can also follow us on Twitter or X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. We're on all the things, and you can find those links at the bottom of our homepage, chocolatey.org. Scroll right down to the bottom. I keep pointing to the bottom, but if you go to that page, down the bottom again, and it's also in the description underneath this video. We want to make sure the content we're streaming here today is what you want to see or hear. If you're listening to us on our podcast, obviously you're listening to us rather than watching us, but we want to know that what we're doing is what you want, what you're like to listen to, or as I said, like to watch. So we've put together a very quick 10-second survey, which we'd really appreciate you completing. And I'm going to pop that onto the screen just now while I read the rest of this. There it's there. If you're listening to us on a podcast, it'll be, I'm pointing down below again, you can't see that, but it'll be in the description of the podcast. So my name is Paul Broadwith. I like to point down the way, and I'm the technical engineering manager here at Chocolatey Software. I lead the engineering team that is responsible for the products that Gary will primarily be talking about today, but I'll have a little bit of input. Talking about Gary, Gary is my co-host as ever. Gary, do you want to introduce yourself?
I can certainly try. So my name is Gary Ewan Park. I am a principal software engineer here at Chocolatey. And I guess I would like to say thank you, but no thank you to Paul for the reminder about how many days it is until Christmas. What that tells me is I have got exactly that many days to find the one present that I am responsible for, because someone else gratefully takes care of all the other ones I have to do. So,
as we seem, we're going to put everything in the description, and we'll maybe pop that present in the description as well. And maybe
any
the number of days
ideas in the comments in the chat would be gratefully received on what to get her for Christmas. Yes,
I'll make some suggestions in the description again. So, yes. So thanks, Gary. Without any more fun or pointing down the way, let's go on to what is Chocolatey GUI Self-Service through the Chocolatey Agent Background Service. Gary, tell us all about it. Tell us how fantastic it is, and sort of take it away. I'll just sit here and look good.
Sure. Why not? So let's start at the beginning. What is this thing that we're talking about? I mean, is that where we're starting? I should check my notes. Where we're starting is what is so. In order to tell people about what self-service is and how you can make use of it, we sort of have to introduce a few things. So we're going to talk about some of the setup from a Chocolatey perspective and what we're going to use in order to facilitate it. So yeah, if you want to share my screen, Paul, I can put it up in this. We'll start talking about it on the screen. So what I'm showing at the minute is I've got a machine that has Chocolatey CLI installed. So I've got Chocolatey 2.2.2 installed, but I've also installed some of the other Chocolatey products as well. Now, I could have done this during this kind of demo, but it was just easier to kind of jump ahead and have all of these things installed before talking about all the other things. So I've got the Chocolatey extension installed, also known as CLE, so Chocolatey License Extension. I've got a product called Chocolatey Agent that we'll come on to in a little bit. And then the other Chocolatey products are, I've got Chocolatey GUI installed, and I've got the Chocolatey GUI extension installed. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is this thing called Chocolatey GUI. So what is Chocolatey GUI? Chocolatey GUI is a command. It's not. That's a lie. Chocolatey GUI is a graphical user interface that sits on top of Chocolatey CLI. So for those that are using Chocolatey, they come to the command line as an administrator, or as a non-administrator user in this case, and they run the choco.exe to perform actions on their machine. But you might not like, or you might not want to use the Chocolatey CLI version, in which case you've got access to the Chocolatey GUI application. So I've started that here from the command line, but you can start it from the start menu and the usual way that you start other applications. And it's literally what it says. It's a graphical user interface that sits on top of Chocolatey that tells you what packages you've got installed, and also allows you to perform actions like install, upgrade, uninstall, etc., from the different sources that you might have configured on your system. And we're going to come to that in a little bit as well. So why is this important? Why do I, as maybe an administrator of a system, or why do I, as the user of a system, care about that? So we kind of spoke about it from the end user perspective. It just means that they've got maybe a more familiar user interface, more like a store application, if you like. You can see what applications they've got installed, they can see what applications are available, and they can go ahead and install them. They can self-serve those applications via the Chocolatey packages onto their machines. So from an administrator point of view, again, why do I care? Well, the benefit of doing a self-service style approach is that you can control what packages are made available on the sources that a user has access to. So what that means is that they're not just going to be able to run off and install every package that they want or every application that they want. You can control what packages are available for, say, your finance team, or what packages are available for your insert another business unit that I can't think of at the minute. Paul, help me out here. So you've got finance people over here, and you've got
you've got HR. That's the
HR,
HR.
right?
There
Another one.
we
So
go.
there we go. So
There we go. I've been useful.
those teams are going to have a different set of applications or packages that they want to install on their machines. So you can provide access to those and control what packages are available via this self-service mechanism. So how does all of this hang together? And why, or how can I, as a non-administrator user, install stuff onto my machine? So an example would be, let's say, and this is the one that I always use. So if I'm ever doing demos, I always use the Winderstat application because it's a simple application to install. Everyone, or most people, know what it is. So I'm logged in here as a non-administrator user. So if I come up directly to this exe, in this case it's an exe, might be an MSI, might be something else. If I come up to here and try and install that, I'm going to get a UAC prompt saying, well, you're not allowed to because you don't have administrative rights, or you don't have installation rights on this machine. So from a non-administrator point of view, it becomes difficult to get the applications that I want on that machine. So how can we, Chocolatey, help with that? So the way that we do that is via this thing that I pointed up here, is via this thing called Chocolatey Agent. So Chocolatey Agent is one of the core Chocolatey products that we offer. And what that is it sits as a Windows service. We're not going to go into the detail of exactly what that is, but it's a service that's running on your machine. But that service is running in an elevated context with administrative permissions. So what that means is that someone using Chocolatey CLI or Chocolatey GUI, we can essentially route the request for performing that operation to the Chocolatey agent, and it will be performed by that elevated user. So me, as the non-admin user, can say, I want to install Winderstat. That request will go to the Chocolatey agent. That installation will be performed, and then I have the application that I want installed on my machine. So that's the basics of what self-service is. And how Chocolatey and the various Chocolatey products kind of come together to bring it all together. So the end user gets this store-like application in the form of Chocolatey GUI. They get to see what packages are available to them through that interface, and then they can select to install the ones that they want. They don't have to install everything, but they have the options to pick the ones that they want to install. So that kind of brings us nicely onto the next section, which is this concept. I touched on it a couple of times. I tried not to go into it in too much detail because I knew it was coming up. But it is the concept of what is known as a source. So what I spoke about was that I, as an administrator, could say, I want all of the packages for the finance people on this source, and then I want all the packages for the HR people over here in this source. So what does that actually mean? A source in the context of Chocolatey is essentially a location where packages are stored. Now, out of the box, by default, Chocolatey has exactly one source, and that is the Chocolatey Community Repository. And so that was in a previous Back to Basics live stream that we talked through that. So the Chocolatey Community Repository is there by default. But it's entirely possible for you as an organization or you as an individual to run your own internal repository. And now there's various application vendors that provide that functionality. So that there's Sonatype Nexus, there's JFrog Artifactory, there's Anido ProGet. There's lots of them. So you can absolutely run that application, install it, and then configure the different sources to have different packages contained within them. But a source from a Chocolatey perspective could also actually just be a file system. It could be a UNC share somewhere that you just drop the Chocolatey packages into. Now, there's reasons that you might not want to use just a file share because you don't get as much data from that in terms of what packages are available, etc. But it's absolutely possible to do it that way. So with a source, or sometimes known as a feed configured, you can then do that self-service provisioning of applications via those packages to allow a user to install them. So the obvious question to get started with is, well, how did I get all of these things installed? So Chocolatey and all of the Chocolatey products, it shouldn't really be a surprise to say that all of those Chocolatey products ship as Chocolatey packages. So when I went to install Chocolatey extension, the Chocolatey license extension, I simply did choco install Chocolatey extension. When I went to install Chocolatey agent, it's Chocolatey choco install Chocolatey agent. I'm not going to labor the or Chocolatey hyphen agent. I'm not going to labor the point, but all of the Chocolatey products ship as Chocolatey packages. So it's a really simple to get it up and running. The only thing that you need, and is a requirement, is you do need to have a valid license file on your app on your machine in order to allow access to the licensed feed or the licensed source to get those packages from. So all of these Chocolatey all of the commercial Chocolatey packages, Chocolatey extension, Chocolatey agent, Chocolatey GUI license extension, they're not available on the Chocolatey community repository. They're available only to licensed customers, and that is facilitated through the Chocolatey license.xml file that you would get from the sales team when you buy Chocolatey as a product. Any questions on any of that, Paul, before I go on to the next phase?
No, the only thing I was thinking about, you said that it'd be interesting. We're probably going to pick this up, and it's also picked up on in the blog post, which I'll put on screen. But if you want to compare versions of Chocolatey products, so the open source version of Chocolatey CLI and Chocolatey for Business and the products that come there, there is a compare page. If you go to chocolatey.org, you'll be able to find the details on there, but it's also linked in the blog post that I've put on screen. So I just wanted to kind of, not really a question, but more of a clarification for
Absolutely.
people wondering what the difference is.
No, thank you for that. So what I want to do next is I want to sort of show the concept of self-service in action. I want to show Chocolatey GUI in action. And I also want to show how I, as an administrator, can take some actions when I need to configure my machine or the suite of machines that I'm looking at to bring under this Chocolatey management. So the first thing I want to say is my end goal through all of this is to get the Winderstat package installed. So I've shown how, as a non-administrator user, I've tried to install it. I went to the Winderstat website and I've downloaded the exe, but I can't install it because I'm not. It's not. I don't have the necessary permissions to install it. Now, what I could do, or what I could try, would be to just do choco install Winderstat, because there is a Winderstat package. And what I said before was that Winderstat is available on the Chocolatey Community Repository. And the Chocolatey Community Repository is the default source that Chocolatey has access to. But what I've just been told here when I tried to run Choco install Winderstat is that the installation was not successful because there are no sources enabled for packages and none were passed as arguments. So what does that mean? So in one of our previous Back to Basics streams and blog posts, we mentioned that Chocolatey is secure by default, and that's true here as well. So we don't just allow the configuration of Chocolatey to run in self-service mode, where you're essentially allowing non-administrator users to perform installation operations. We don't allow that to happen to sources that you haven't deigned as being available for doing installations from. So out of the box right now, Chocolatey CLI and therefore Chocolatey GUI have no sources configured that they can install packages from. So from the command line, that's a little bit harder to see because I tried to install that package, but I can't. But if I go and run Chocolatey GUI as a non-administrator user, it's slightly easier. I think I've actually got it open already. Sorry. It's actually slightly easier to see because on the left-hand side here, this PC tab is showing me the packages that I have installed. So when I went over here and did a Choco list, it's the same packages being displayed in Chocolatey GUI in this PC tab because it's the same packages that I've got installed. But normally what you'd see here in Chocolatey GUI is a list of available sources that you could install packages from. But because background service mode is enabled, or self-service mode is enabled, and Chocolatey Agent is running, there's no additional sources because, well, they haven't been enabled for self-service. But if I run Chocolatey GUI as a different user, so I'm going to walk up to Chocolatey GUI and I'm going to say I want to run as an administrator. So I can run this, if I can remember what my password is. I'm going to run Chocolatey GUI as someone who has administrative rights. And Chocolatey GUI responds slightly differently to that user. So what I can see straight away here is I can see the same list of packages that are installed on this PC. But what I've also got is these additional sources on the left-hand side because I, as an administrator, can install things from the Chocolatey Community Repository. Or I, as an administrator, can install things from the Chocolatey license feed. But the non-administrator user can't. But what we can do through Chocolatey GUI is configure that setup so that we can make that source available to the non-administrator user. So you can do all of these things. What I'm a way to do, you can absolutely do it from the command line, but we're kind of showing what functionality you've got through the GUI interface, Chocolatey GUI. So what I'm going to show here is if I go up to settings and I go over to sources here, then I can see the sources that I have available. But over here on the right-hand side, I can see that neither of these are enabled for self-service mode. So if I click on the Chocolatey Community Repository, and then I click the is self-service and click save, I'm then configuring that source to be in self-service mode. Now, what I will stipulate is that this is not something that we would necessarily recommend organizations to do. And there's instructions for why that's the case on our documentation site. But essentially what it comes down to is that you as a organization might want or need to have more control over what packages you've got available to your end users. But I'm using the Chocolatey Community Repository just as an example. So I've enabled that as self-service. So if I go ahead and close Chocolatey GUI there, and I run Chocolatey GUI again as a non-administrator user, what's going to happen this time round is I'm going to be able to see on the left-hand side now that I have a source, a feed available. So I can click on that feed and I can see what packages I can install. Now, because it's the Chocolatey Community Repository, it has over 10,300 packages because it is the largest repository of applications that you can install Windows packages from. But I'm interested in that important one, which is Windorstat. So if I come up here and search for Windorstat, I'll see that there's quite a few packages that meet that criteria, but the one that I'm interested in is this one over here. So if I double click on that, through the user interface, I get more information about the package. So what version is it, how many downloads it has, when it was last updated, etc. But the important one for me is that I want to install it. So I can click the button that is install. And at this point, what's going to happen is that Windorstat is going to be installed on my machine via that background agent, via the Chocolatey agent. So where I was unable to install it myself directly by double clicking on the exe, it has been allowed to be installed because I'm using the self-service mode of Chocolatey agent. So what I can see then is if I go, my mouse doesn't seem to be responding to my clicks. Let's try that again. If I go down here and look in Windorstat, now I can see that that application, when it wasn't installed before, is now available on my machine. Okay. So out of the box, with self-service mode enabled, I can install applications. If an application, or more specifically, if a package were outdated, I would have the option to upgrade a package. But what happens if I wanted to uninstall a package? I should be able to do that, right? Well, the short answer is no, because out of the box, the way that we've got Chocolatey GUI and self-service mode configured is that you're only allowed to perform an install and an upgrade operation. So in the user interface in Chocolatey GUI, that's quite easy to see because this uninstall button is grayed out and it says that that's not allowed to be done. And it's not allowed to be done because there's a configuration that prevents it from being done. So in the UI, I can see that and I can get information and I can maybe reach out to my system administrator for guidance on that. If I were to attempt the same thing from the command line, the output is not quite as easy to understand, but the essence of it is the same. I'm going to attempt to uninstall Choco Windorstat, and it's going to say that I can't. So there's a little bit of scary red text in there saying that it's not able to do something. That's something that I personally want to improve within Chocolatey CLI, and we've actually had conversations around that just recently. But the upshot is that you cannot, by default, perform that operation. But if you wanted to, as a system administrator, I could enable that feature and allow those packages to be uninstalled once they have been installed. So to show how that could be done, I'm going to open Chocolatey GUI again as the administrator user. So I'm going to look in my settings here, and the settings screen within Chocolatey GUI shows settings for both Chocolatey GUI, it shows settings for Chocolatey CLI, and it allows you to configure the sources. So the one that I'm interested in now is I want to set a setting, which was mentioned in the tooltip that I was showing before, into what operations are allowed while you're running in background service mode. So as I mentioned, by default, this is install and upgrade, but there's absolutely nothing to stop me as an administrator coming in and saying, well, I want to add the uninstall operation to that background service mode. So what's going to happen now is if I close this one more time, and I'm going to show it through the user interface, but it now would be possible through the CLI as well. If I want to show it in action over here, as having enabled that setting, if I were to go to the Windorstat package, now you'll see that I've got the uninstall option available to me because I've added that command to that configuration. The pin command, that's still not allowed because we didn't enable the pin operation to be performed, but I can uninstall Windorstat via self-service and Chocolatey Agent so that it can I can provision and self-provision those packages onto my machine. So we like to think there's a little bit, well, there's quite a lot of flexibility when it comes to how you can configure the self-service mode within Chocolatey, and that's just one example of it. The other ones that I wanted to show, I'll need to go back into that as my administrator user. Just give me 1 second while I get back in there.
Will I sing a little song, Gary?
I think you should, Paul. I think that would be the highlight of the stream there. Absolutely.
Maybe the sky boats. Oh, it's come on. Okay,
we're too slow.
Yeah.
So the blog post that accompanies this stream, it talks about how you can do the initial configuration of Chocolatey self-service mode via the command line. So the blog post talks about the different Choco feature commands that you wanted to run, and you can absolutely do that. And that's typically how our end users are doing that. But what I wanted to show again through the user interface side of things is that you can toggle those features on and off as you need them to, and you can set the configuration as you need to. So as an example, if I were to look for background here, I can filter down and see only the features that are related to the background service mode. So the ones that I've enabled before the stream started was this one, use background service. So by default, this feature is not enabled. So background service mode, or in other words, self-service mode is not enabled. So I ran the Choco feature command to enable it, but you could absolutely toggle it on and off through Chocolatey GUI as an administrator user as well. The other feature that I enabled was, it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'll try and explain it. There's the use background service with non-administrators only feature. So once you wrap your head around the words that are there, what that's essentially saying is that by default, when you enable self-service mode, the self-service mode is going to be in action for every user on the machine. But I, as an administrator user, might not want to be, or have any other administrators on the machine have to be, should be, not forced is the wrong word. They shouldn't be, as an administrator user on the machine, I don't want to use the self-service mode. So by enabling this feature, sorry, say that again.
It's not necessary for administrators. I think that's what's in the blog post.
Wording is hard. Words are hard.
You were tripping up and I couldn't find the unmute button, so I interrupted.
It's fine.
Apologies.
So by enabling that feature, what that means is that I, as administrator, will not be subject to going through Chocolatey self-service or Chocolatey background mode. So that's probably a recommended setting that we have you enable that when you're setting up self-service mode, and that's what's in the documentation. The last one that I wanted to mention is, this might be hard to wrap some words around as well, but there's another feature that's enabled by default, which is show non-elevated warnings. So typically, when I'm running Chocolatey CLI as a non-administrator user, I would see lots of output that says, you're not running in an elevated mode. Do you want to try again, effectively? But that's because, by default, Chocolatey is secure by default. It will not want or need to do anything that it doesn't think is the right thing to do. So if you're running Chocolatey CLI as a non-administrator, it's going to think that you're not doing the right thing because it assumes that you should be running as administrator, because administrative rights are needed to perform most operations that Chocolatey can perform. But when you're running in self-service mode, you're deferring all of those operations to the background service. So as a result, we don't need to show the non-elevated warnings. So our recommended setup in this mode is to disable that specific feature. And again, that's talked about in the documentation. So all of that is possible via the command line to set that up, but you can also absolutely do it through Chocolatey GUI as well. So I wanted to show that in action. The other couple of things that I wanted to talk about is not specific to Chocolatey GUI and self-service mode, but it is just some of the things that become available when you have Chocolatey GUI and the Chocolatey GUI license extension in play. So we're going to touch on them a little bit. But before doing that, I just wanted to catch up, Paul. Is there anything that I've missed that you wanted to bring up, or anything
No,
else?
I rudely interrupted you earlier, so I think that was enough interruptions for the stream. No, there's been no questions come through. So yeah, everything's on track. Go for it.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing, so I've got Chocolatey GUI installed, as we've already spoken about, but I've also got the Chocolatey GUI license extension installed. Now, we've sort of seen that in action already, but I'll just go over it a little bit here. The first time, or the way that you know that you've got the Chocolatey GUI license extension installed, you can't see anymore because Paul just put up that, but I'll just bring it up a little bit. So down at the bottom here, this says Chocolatey GUI version 2.1.0, 2.1.0, and it's the business edition. So that's because I've got the Chocolatey GUI license extension installed. If I didn't have that, it would just say Chocolatey GUI without the business. So that's similar to the output that you would see from Chocolatey CLI itself when you've got the Chocolatey license extension installed. So I'm signed in here or I'm logged in as an administrator with, or rather, let me say that differently. I'm running Chocolatey GUI as an administrator user, so I've got access to the settings pane up here. But if you remember, when I was running Chocolatey GUI as the non-administrator user, that settings screen is not accessible because as a non-administrator user, you can't typically change the settings of Chocolatey, so why would we make that settings screen available to the non-administrator users? So that functionality or that ability to control the user interface here through Chocolatey GUI only comes from the Chocolatey GUI license extension. So the Chocolatey GUI license extension is more aimed at how administrators of a system might want to show different people what's available in different ways, is what I'm trying to say. So the other things that I wanted to show is just an example. If I go up to here and log back in, this is the time for your song. That's the wrong button. If I go back up here and say run as administrator and go.
I can't sing, Gary, if you continue to talk.
Sorry,
It doesn't
worry.
work. So.
It's fine. Cancel that.
Too late
it's
again.
here. It's here. Right. So Chocolatey GUI running as administrator. Again, I've got access to that settings screen. But there are other things in here that, again, so all of the features that are only available to Chocolatey GUI license extension users, it is noted here. So note this feature will only work with Chocolatey for Business and the Chocolatey GUI license extension. So that was the one. If you wanted to allow non-admin users to have access to the settings tab, you absolutely can do that by toggling this feature on and off. You can absolutely do that. But the other one that I thought I might show off just to show how it could be of interest, not that one, it was this PC source. So we had some customers come back to us to say that they wanted almost the exact polar opposite things available to them. So one was that they wanted to enable the ability to hide this PC source. So if you think about it, so what I showed you before is that Chocolatey GUI will show you both what's available on this PC and also what remote sources are available. So in my case, I've got both Chocolatey and Chocolatey license available. So one customer came along and said, well, we don't want people to have access to this PC source. We don't want them to see it. So we created a feature, which is only available for Chocolatey GUI license extension, is that you can hide this PC source. But then someone else came along and said, well, I only want them to have access to this PC source, and I want to prevent access to all of the remote sources. So you can do that in a couple of ways, as we've shown. If self-service is running, if a source isn't enabled for self-service, then it won't show up. But if you're running Chocolatey GUI without self-service enabled, you might want to hide all of the sources. So these two features are the exact polar opposite of each other. And if you put them both on at the same time, it will just default to the showing of this PC source. So you can't put them both on at the same time, because then there would be nothing to show in Chocolatey GUI. But the one that I have enabled is the hide this PC source. So when we log back in, we'll check for that in a second. And the other one that was interesting was a customer came along and said, we like the user interface, but we don't want people upgrading all the packages that they have available at once. We want it to be more of a selective operation where they just have to specifically say, I'm knowingly updating this thing. So Chocolatey GUI has a feature that says prevent the usage of the update all button. So it's not allowed. We won't show it anymore. And I think that was the only other one I wanted to mention. So I've enabled both of those features. So if I come out of here now and I go back in as a non-administrator user, it will load up now with those features set up in that way. Although, did I not? I thought I clicked the hide this PC source, but I maybe didn't turn it off. I'll have to check that one. So this PC source shouldn't be here if that feature was enabled. And the other one was the update all button. So up here, there would normally be a disabled update all button that says go ahead and update all. But it's now not there because I've enabled that feature through Chocolatey GUI itself. I'm interested to go back and see if that hide this PC source, I've turned it off. But I'm also conscious of time, so I'll maybe do that later. The other thing that I wanted to briefly touch on, and then we've got a couple of things just to wrap up with, is that I've done all of those feature enabling and disablings through Chocolatey GUI, the interface. But from an administrator point of view, well, I might want to do those things programmatically. So how would I change Chocolatey GUI settings without going into the UI on each machine and toggling all the buttons? Because that would get old quite quickly. For the first machine, you could quite quickly just say this feature, this feature, this feature. But by the time you get to the 100th or 200th computer, clicking those buttons, that's when it starts to become a pain. So through Chocolatey, we've got the choco config command that allows you to set config for the machine that you're on. We've also got the choco feature command that allows you to toggle features on and off. So what we've got with Chocolatey GUI is we've got the Chocolatey GUI CLI. So it's the command line version of Chocolatey GUI. Now bear with me, because that seems a little strange, but stick with me here, right? So what this enables, if I do -H on the Chocolatey GUI CLI, we'll see that we've got the feature and the config commands in the same way that Choco has a config and feature command. Chocolatey GUI has the same thing via the Chocolatey GUI CLI command. So I can do Choco feature -H, and what it'll tell me is that I can enable and disable features of Chocolatey GUI from the command line. So if you did want to use Chocolatey GUI in your organization, and you did want to set up a default way of doing things, so it might be to hide this PC source, or it might be to enable access to settings, or it might be to enable one of the other features that Chocolatey GUI offers when the Chocolatey GUI license extension is in play, then you can absolutely programmatically do that through your initial provisioning. So you would have you would do the installation of Chocolatey, you would do the installation of Chocolatey GUI, and then on top of that, you would run several Chocolatey GUI CLI commands to set the configuration that you wanted and to set the features that you wanted. So you can absolutely do that programmatically rather than having to click through different options. So what Stevie's saying in the chat is almost like we love automation or something. Yes, that's absolutely where it came from. So there's some people out there might be saying, well, if you already had the Choco config and the Choco feature command, why not just put the Chocolatey GUI features into that same mechanism? The long and the short of it is we thought about it for a long time, and what we ended up saying was, because they're two distinct products, we didn't think it made sense to put those features into the chocolatey.config file or into the choco.config and the choco feature command, because it blurs the line between what is Chocolatey CLI and what is Chocolatey GUI. So that's the line in the sand that we're in at the minute. But there's always lots of conversations happening in terms of how do we reconcile some of these things? How do we improve the user interface for configuration? So it's definitely something that we talk a lot about. We have talked a lot about in the past. But for now, Chocolatey GUI CLI is the command line way of setting all the features and toggling those features on and off for an installation of Chocolatey GUI, whether that's in self-service mode, whether that's just on your machines with the ability to do anything that they want to do. So with that, I had a couple of other things to talk about, and then I was going to hand it back to Paul to ask any questions. The first question, or the first thing that I want to bring up is, or a common question is, can everyone use Chocolatey Agent? And the short answer is no. So Chocolatey Agent is one of our Chocolatey for Business products, and you do need to be a Chocolatey for Business customer in order to get access to Chocolatey Agent. Chocolatey Agent is the product that also or sits behind our Chocolatey Central Management offering. So if you're using Chocolatey Central Management, it's Chocolatey Agent that does the reporting of what packages you have installed, what packages are outdated, back to Chocolatey Central Management, where you get that single pane of glass style view of what packages do I have installed across all of the machines in my environment. So it's pivotal to how Chocolatey Central Management works, and the offerings or the features that it gives, we see it really only for our Chocolatey for Business customers. So you will need to have, as I mentioned right at the start, you will need to have the Chocolatey license extension package installed, a valid license, and Chocolatey Agent installed to get access to all of those features. So in a commercial setting with some of the organizations that we work with, that's the default installation steps that is performed on all of their machines when they're in bringing those machines under Chocolatey management. If you did have any other questions about anything related to this, there's some links in the blog post that goes off to frequently asked questions for Chocolatey Agent, as well as how you can do the initial setup and configuration that we kind of briefly talked through in this stream. And there's another link off to, if you do have questions, there are links to our Discord hub or Discord chat where you can ask questions about this sort of stuff. But if you're starting to run into specific issues or pain points, or you have this kind of bigger questions that aren't designed for Discord chat, then Chocolatey support is available for answering those type of questions. So that's all detailed in the blog post. So what I hope I've shown is that Chocolatey GUI is a useful way of doing things. And I am in no way biased about Chocolatey GUI. I've only been the kind of main maintainer of it since before I care to remember. We actually had a conversation about how some of us have been involved in Chocolatey earlier today, and it reminded me that it's been a long time. Because it was 2013. I think I started being a maintainer of the Chocolatey GUI project. So it's been really good to see how it has developed and how it's got some of these additional features and is being made more useful to our business customers. So if it's not perfect, but if you do have questions about it or you want new functionality in it, absolutely reach out. I've got some work planned for some features going into Chocolatey GUI in the near future, so I'll be happy to see those going out the door as well. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Paul, because I think I've said everything that I wanted to say this time round.
Thanks, Gary. There's just time for me to sing a song. Unfortunately, there's no decision in the chat about what I should sing, so we're going to have to postpone that, unfortunately, to another time. One of the things that as you were talking just there about Chocolatey GUI, you were talking about, the main maintainer of that since about 2013, and that's something that strikes me between Chocolatey and a lot of other organisations that produce software is that we've still got the same software developer working on the product for, well, now it's 11 years thereabouts, and is continuing to work on that. It's continuing to improve it as customers and community users give us suggestions and ideas. There's obviously only so much we can do, but that we're continuing to roll with that. And people can pop questions into the chat here. They can raise GitHub issues. They can come on Discord, and they'll be able to talk directly to you and the rest of the team as well. There's not many organizations that allow direct access to the software developers, and particularly the primary developers on particular products. I think that's really special for us. And you mentioned as well that a lot of we've been looking back. It was actually today we were looking back at the moderation figures, the moderation numbers for the Chocolatey Community Repository going back to October 2014 is when it started. And we were kind of looking at when people came on board, when people started to become moderators, and it was quite interesting to see some of those numbers. You've been there since the very beginning of moderation, back in October 2014, right up till up till today. You are the only moderator who has started and is still continuing to moderate packages on the Chocolatey Community Repository, which is fantastic. Again, I would sing a song about that in praise of that, but again, no decision in chat, and it's not really my fault, but maybe a little bit of a round of applause there. But yeah, it's been really interesting to see those numbers. I think it was nearly 9,000 packages you've moderated over your time there. And then seeing some of the other moderators as well. David Gardner, we were talking about as well. He came in, I think it was 20. I'm making numbers.
2016, I think it was.
It was 2016, yeah, August, I think, is ringing a bell. And David Kim as well had come in shortly after that. And it was just, I didn't realise that they were involved as long as they have been. So it was a bit of a surprise. I can't remember when I came on board with that, maybe 2017 or 2018. And that was a shock because I thought it was earlier than that. So yeah, it was really interesting. It's what I'm trying to see, that people are continuing to be part of this community for such a long time, both in terms of being members of the Chocolatey team and outside of the Chocolatey team as well. So I'm really proud to be part of an organisation that people are around for that length of time, still see value in the product, value in the team, and value in the culture that we try to propagate, not only within the organisation, but across our customers and our community as well. Yep. It's great to see. So yeah, again, no decision in chat about a song, so we'll have to leave it there. But I think looking at the background service, looking at self-service as well, it's a great addition to organizations that don't want to give. We've talked about the two departments. We talked about HR and we talked about finance. That was the kind of two examples we've given. Now, no offense to people in finance, no offense to people in HR, but your IT administrators do not want to give you administrative rights to your machines for lots and lots of good reasons. But then how do you install software? How do you allow them to install software? Things like, IT departments sometimes are not really that don't care too much about, for example, maybe the browser you want to use. Do you want to use Firefox? Do you want to use Chrome? We don't really mind as long as it can still view our internal systems pages, maybe the portal that's internal. And both of those can do that. So they like to give people the option to install the software that they want to use, that they feel most comfortable with. And the same thing will come down to maybe if you've got an Office suite, you might be using Microsoft Office. Maybe you want to give people the option of LibreOffice or some of the other products as well. Again, where they feel most comfortable to be. And it's good that they can still give people those options, a controlled set of options. They don't say every browser that you can install under the sun. We're saying only the browsers we've made available in this particular repository. So they might package up Firefox and Chrome, and maybe one or two others, maybe Brave or something like that they want to put in there, and then people can install from that, but they don't have to give those end users administrative rights. So they've still kept the machine is secure. It's safe. They've given the users a way to install software in a very controlled manner, and it gives confidence to those administrators at the end of the day that they know that all those machines will only have certain pieces of software on there. And then if you use CCM, they'll know exactly what's installed on those machines, because they'll be able to get the outdated packages, they'll be able to get the packages that are installed, etc., etc. So it's really, really useful for an organizational point of view. And we know a lot of customers that use it and really, really like it. And Chocolatey GUI is at the center of that as well. So thank you, Gary, for taking us through the demos today. I really appreciate it.
I've just realised what I did with this PC source not showing up properly. It's a whole topic for a different day, though, because it's a simple thing, but there's reasons for it. There's a little bit of history. Long and the short of it is I didn't set that setting properly. I was setting it for the administrator user, not for the non-admin user, because each user can have their own settings, and I was logged into Chocolatey GUI as the administrator user, and I put it off for myself, but for the other user, I hadn't set it off for them. That's why it was still showing. And that's where you would need to use Chocolatey GUI CLI to set that setting globally. So it's then applied across every user on the machine, not just the one that's currently logged in. So, moment of clarity as you were talking there. And yes, it's exactly that flag, Stevie. It's the -- global flag that you pass to Chocolatey GUI CLI.
So people can rewind back now and confirm that you are telling the truth. And they can see that.
Yes, it definitely didn't hide this PC source for the other user. But had I ran the command with the flag that Stevie is mentioning, then it would have correctly hidden this PC source.
If there is one person you would expect to get it right, Gary, it would be you. But even you sometimes make mistakes.
Ashamed because
you should do. Maybe you.
I literally wrote that code, and yeah, I forgot about it. So
no words.
I won't be able to sleep tonight thinking about that. So
no,
never mind. Never mind.
Okay. Well, at least we've admitted that publicly, so that's something. Awesome. Okay. We don't have any questions or any more questions in the chat on the stream. We don't have any questions in Discord either. So in future streams, if you're kind of watching us in future, you can leave questions in the chat. On the stream itself, either on Twitch or on YouTube. You can also leave questions in Discord. We've got an AMA-questions channel. You can ask questions in it as well. Or alternatively, you can send us them before the stream if you want them answered on there. You can't actually get onto the stream at that particular time, and we're happy to do that. As Stevie says, no questions but ideas. We've got lots of them, lots and lots of those. But so what we'll do just now is we'll wrap the stream up today. So a big thanks to Gary for taking us through some of the demos today. That was, well, not some of them, actually, all of the demos today. I hope it's clear to everybody how Chocolatey CLI, Chocolatey GUI, and Chocolatey Agent all kind of work together to allow you and your colleagues as well, users within all those different departments, to self-serve packages and software on your computers. And it's in a safe, secure, and controlled way, and providing the administrators in your organization with the confidence to know what is deployed in all of your computers. And you can take that a step further, as I said, by using something like Chocolatey Central Management, which tells you exactly what's installed on all of your computers. If you want more information on any of our Chocolatey for Business products, if you go to our homepage, chocolatey.org, you'll find the details on there. Various menus for Chocolatey for Business, Chocolatey Central Management, different things. But you can find all the details on there. As I mentioned at the start, we have a survey, and I'm just going to pop it up on the screen while I'm talking about it. There we go. Is that on screen? Yes, it is. So we have that survey, and we'd really appreciate you completing that survey now that the stream is over. And the reason we want you to do that is just to make sure that the content is what you want to see, or if you're listening on a podcast, what you want to hear, and capture any ideas that you'd like to look at for future streams as well. And you can find the link in the description of where you found this. I am not going to point down again, but it's down. So, and you can also be notified of all of our chocolatey content. Gary's around it. You can be notified of all of our chocolatey content by joining our community hub on Discord, subscribing to us on YouTube, and clicking the notification bell. If you do that, you'll get notifications when we next stream on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter or X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. And you can find all the links for those at the bottom of our chocolatey.org homepage. Again, I'm not pointing down. And in the description, again, not pointing down. So our next live stream is Unpacking Software on the 16th of May at 4 p.m. UTC. Join myself, join Gary, and join Stevie for news, chat, and opinion on all things software and software management. We also make that live stream available as a podcast. So if you can't join us at the time, you can watch it back on YouTube, but you can also listen to it as a podcast as well. And we'd really appreciate you, again, giving us your feedback on that and telling us what you think of it. This will be our 4th episode, so we're still quite new to this podcast area. So it'll be really interesting to see what you think about that. But anyway, thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you on the next live stream, as I said, on the 16th of May at 4 p.m. UTC. And thanks you for your time today. Thank you for Gary. Thank you to Gary, sorry. And take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.